Okay, Christmas. Hello.
Hello, festive.
It's marvelous. It's good to see you all. I need to do a little bit of an introduction to you guys because
nobody knows who we are. Quite frankly, we don't know why we're here. And that
no. They know who you are, but I need to explain how important you are in my life.
Well, that's true. That's true. And even ours as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, Phil
Yes.
Legg, the legendary, was the engineer on my. We met engineering Terence Trent D'Arby in the 80s, basically. Is that right?
Did you work under him, Leggy?
I worked under him. Yeah, I was.
Were you under him? To be rude.
Yeah.
You've got such a dirty mind.
This is going to be good.
Yeah, that's where we first met, wasn't it? Really, we actually do a gig together years earlier.
Is this Essential Logic? Yeah.
When I was in Essential Logic, yeah, and all that, and
where was that?
that was a factory, Moss Side, right?
Moss Side, yeah, it was dangerous.
Yes, you guys as Human League, you were in it, and I think I'd only joined the band. I think that week.
Oh, for fuck!
This is going well.
We regard this on the podcast as local colour, when things go wrong. So I was
Switching off just switching our implements off.
Yeah, or dogs interrupt or stuff like that. I love your Zoom. I love your Zoom background, by the way, with all the discs and everything. That's so professional. Looks like my mum's front room. Oh, when she was alive. Anyway, I'm on the Tanqueray, by the way. It's Christmas.
Oh, quite. Oh no, I'm not on the tag.
I'm really not taking this seriously or professionally at all. But so Phil, we have been very, very close and loving friends since that date, and we actually did a load of other projects as well, didn't we?
Yeah, we did Erasure.
I say.
Moye, didn't we do Alison Moye? Mark
Almond. And did we do... was it you I did Urban Cookie Collective with?
Yes, Urban Cookie Collective with Bootsy Collins. Yeah.
And Bootsy Collins and all that shit. Oh my God.
Of course.
Well, I love you, man. I love you. I've always loved you. Anyway, moving on to Marcus. Yeah. Anyway, shut up. Moving on to Marcus. We've been friends since we met in the Slug and Lettuce, probably.
That's right, in Hereford Road in Notting Hill. That would be 87.
But the irony is, we come from the same part of the world, you know. I mean, Sheffield, but different kind of generations.
I still am you're old enough to be my dad. So
well, third star, it's like fucking Glenn. Never stops. On stage is always going. Well, I first met Martin when he was like, you know, when I was 14 and he was 23. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, so tell us. Well, I'll fill you in about Marcus. He's an amazing musician. Had enormous hits with Living in a Box. And we are like kindred spirits, all of us, really. Oh, he's doing a strange... You do realise I'm recording the video as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, dear.
Oh, my God, it's not going to go badly, this podcast.
Oh, well, you did invite your mates on, wouldn't you?
I know. Expect.
I mean, what do you expect, really?
Listen, I've got a question for you. Do you have any drinks?
No, I don't. But then, actually, do you know what? I've just had my COVID booster because I'm an aged old. So
yeah, I've had mine.
And I'm feeling slightly off my game.
Oh, well,
not badly. I mean, not badly. Don't worry, it's not going to hold me back. But that's the only reason.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're not drinking?
Up today. But that's all right.
Well, you're doing very well so far. You're completely profane, so that's good.
Yeah.
I just need to inform the podcast listeners that Phil and Marcus and Titch, who's the drummer from Living in a Box, are my closest friends, and every year we decide on apart from COVID, of course, we decide on a city to visit, and we spend a kind of long weekend together in a different city, and it's been one of the most amazing elements of my life, really. To the extent where I think we should do a book about it or a documentary. We've been all over the place. Well, we're all over the place in our normal life, but I mean literally all over the place, and we're going to continue to do it now that COVID is abating a little bit.
Yeah, over the years we've been to quite a few places, really.
Yeah, let's try and list them, shall we?
Barcelona,
Barcelona,
Iceland, of course, Reykjavik, stunning.
Iceland, Reykjavik, Seville,
Venice,
Chicago, Venice, yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Where else? Seville was great, wasn't it? I love Seville.
Bologna.
Bologna was great too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Many places and more to visit.
We are continuing to plan. I personally think that all the things I kind of poo-pooed in the past, because they were a bit too extreme, I just think we fucking do it now. Like Cartagena.
Yeah, but we're not going to get back from that. Yeah, that.
That's a one-way trip.
That's a one-way factory visit we're not recovering from. It would be good, a bit like going around Amazon. You know, we've received all these Amazon boxes over the years to actually see where they come from.
Yes.
Plus, I'm watching Narcos at the moment.
Oh, right, okay. Las Vegas.
Oh, well, again.
We could do that, though.
We could do that, but can you imagine?
Well, I can. I spent a week in Las Vegas, and it frightened me to death.
It's a great city.
It is a great city. I mean, it's like visiting Mars or something.
It is, yeah. I'm always amazed when I meet people from Vegas. It's like, really? That is a bit like being from somewhere so outrageously fun that it'll kill you. You know what I mean?
Well, have you been to Vegas?
I've not been to Vegas. I'm a Vegas virgin. So
Well, we've got to. Well, I'm sure we can sort that out.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That's a dangerous premise. You think The Hangover, the film, was extreme? Just wait till we get there.
Oh, crikey! Yeah.
Oh god! I'm sure we can hire a tiger somewhere. Yeah, it'd be quite good. So Phil, I just want to talk to you for a minute about your amazing career, actually, which is. He's a fantastic engineer and co-producer and everything. Tell me about all the people that you've worked with and your kind of world.
Oh, well, various stages, really. I mean, originally in a band, like I say, Essential Logic, Signs of Rough Trade. Playing, with doing gigs with Joy Division, Human League, Iggy Pop, various bands like that. The Slits, the pop group, Horrific and Panic, those sort of things. So that was that side, really. That was the initial side. But who else? Young Marble Giants. There's another band that maybe Cabaret Voltaire, things like that.
Wow.
That was my first stage, really. Then I sort of I started off as a guitar player, but I very quickly sort of got obsessed with the sort of studio side of things, really. And that led me to having a studio with This Heat in Brixton. This Heat, who have now actually come alive again, and they're sort of doing stuff with Hot Chip and stuff like that.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they did the Barbican and stuff like that. They're doing American tours as well. So that's that. But and that all led me in really to sort of then getting a job at working at the power plant, which is basically where I sort of then got to work with Sade, Everything But the Girl.
Sorry, to explain to the listeners where the power plant was.
The power plant was basically used to be Morgan Studios, which apparently is where I think Berlin by Lou Reed was cut.
No No.
Apparently, the story, they're taking her children away, that chap.
Oh, I love that.
Well, apparently, and I don't know, this is urban myth, and it may well be, but apparently they did. The story goes that the kid crying in the beginning is they pulled the child off the street and basically took her into one of their studios and told her that she's taking her children away. So I don't know whether that's a myth or not, but
That's horrible.
yeah, I know it is. But apparently that was done there. I know that a few other hits were done there, but basically Robin Miller took it over, who went on to produce Sade and, of course, all those other small things.
Is Robin still around, by the way?
Yes.
I need to talk to him for the podcast, I think.
Yeah, he's right. Sorry, my video went then. Yes, Robin's still around. I sort of talk to him occasionally over email, occasionally see him out of things. He's now doing Blue Raincoat music with Jeremy Lascelles.
Really?
Yeah, who took over when Warner's got brought up or something, and the Monopolies Commission said you had to sort of split it all up. So him and Jeremy bought Chrysalis.
Yeah, exactly. My record label.
Yeah, and basically they've sort of been weeding their way through all that catalogue and sort of doing all that. So
Yeah, shafting us all for everything they can shaft us for.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
you should be thankful you're not on Universal, mate. But yeah, the Death Star, as I call it. I'll probably get prosecuted for that. But anyway,
You can bleep the bits out.
I don't give a fuck. So tell us about your current career as a kind of plugger, really, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. So that whole sort of thing of basically engineer producer thing, sort of was a whirlwind thing really for about 10 or 15 years, really. During which time I also sort of met up with Marcus and we sort of did a few things together. And yeah, it just came to the point of sort of new millennium where sort of I sort of had an idea of sort of doing a label, come music company. So the idea of Future Proof was born. Pretty much as soon as I started it, someone asked me to do a club night, and I sort of got involved in about 3 or 4 years of utter madness, basically doing just running club nights and things. But it was great because it took me out of the whole studio thing, which had come down to you being in a room staring at the screen.
Yeah.
More gregarious. So that was good sort of dynamic.
I'm gonna come back to about the whole kind of Notting Hill scene because I find that fascinating in a minute. But I need to move on to
that was that, and I sort of put out some initial bits of vinyl with Rodney P and Nana Cherry and people like that. But then the music business really collapsed. The whole retail side collapsed.
yes.
Yes, we went through a lot of other stuff, but about 15 years of not, sort of struggling to get by. But, I suppose I got into the whole promotion thing. And
That's good. We'll come back to that in a minute.
yeah.
Marcus,
Yes, dear.
will you stop making those gestures? I'm not going to explain to the listeners what he was just doing, because it's profane. But I just want to talk to you about how Living in a Box started.
Good question. I've never been asked that. But okay, I have, but this is the truth. How did it start? So I used to promote gigs with George Webster and Kevin Johnson at the famous Limit Club. Right, after that. But the Limit Club is the Cardinal. You see, we have to put the listeners right. If I start talking about the Cardinal, we are talking about Wersey, aren't we, Leggy?
Yeah.
Now, the Cardinal is the Cardinal because he's got a place in Venice that he's been very kind to invite us to a few times. Beautiful place. And there's a very famous painting called, is it the Count d'Urbino?
Yeah,
it is.
actually.
And again, I've forgotten who the painter was, but it's of the Count d'Urbino, who looks just like Wersey. Except as a cardinal. And of course, where in Italian is Ware. It's the Cardinale Ware.
There you go.
There you go. So that's what Cardinal. Anyway, back to the story. So I don't know, the Limit Club, 1984, 3, around that sort of time. very exciting times in Sheffield. Limit Club was what, 350 people, would you say, Cardinal?
Yeah, roughly. So, they're all standing. Yeah.
Lot.
It was a bit like Eric's in Liverpool, kind of similar size.
Exactly. But anyway, all the artists that were going in there well, not they all went on the big things, but they were pretty serious artists as it turned out. And I started working there, handing out flyers and, on the moor and all this kind of stuff, and then putting up flyers at night. The quads 40 by 30, was it? Or I can't remember what size they were.
Oh, yeah. I got arrested for doing that.
Yeah, exactly, which you do. And then there was, of course, a Manchester mob and a Sheffield mob, and it all got a bit nasty,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so we used to go sticking those things up, and then eventually got they bought the Lyceum Theatre in Sheffield.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I took over promoting concerts there and got relationships built with all the London agents, which was quite nice. So we did everybody from U2 to the Clash at Leeds Queen's Hall, various other.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, well, you see, but it was great to learn the business in a way. And I just got into. We were doing Clash at Leeds Queen's Hall, and they were using local acts. And so as a promoter, our job was to find a local band to put on. And a part of the cassettes that we used to receive was a band called Typhoon Saturday, and they featured a drummer called Titch Critchlow. Songs were absolute shit. The drumming was brilliant, and I was starting to play and get into music, which I'd always done at school and stuff. But because I got into promoting concerts, seeing a lot of acts, you kind of think, well, I'll have a go at this. How difficult can it be? Actually, it turns out to be a lot more difficult than it looks. But anyway, started writing some songs and needed a drummer, so I gave him the gig of being my drummer rather than being the gig for the Clash.
Wow.
He hit it off really well. And started demoing stuff, and I wrote this track called Living in a Box, and I remember writing the lyrics to him, playing it to him, and he got to the bit where he hit the chorus and go, living in a box, I'm living in a cardboard box. And he said, you can't have cardboard in a song. And I don't know why not. That's the whole bloody point, mate. It's a bit odd, but why not? Anyway, as it turned out.
Oh, can you explain what was going through your mind and what you think the meaning is of that song?
Well, it came from a friend of mine who was living in a Hyde Park flat in Hyde Park, in Sheffield there, which were very, but now actually it's almost famous because of the architecture, but they're very small boxy flats, typical of the period. And he said to me, I feel like I'm living in a box. And it wasn't at the time, and maybe that was 2 or 3 weeks before I wrote the backing track for Living in a Box, but it was one of those sort of things that just sort of stuck in my head. And so once I'd written the track, it just sort of dropped into my head. As we all know, Martin, it's like, these things come from wherever, I don't know, some other space, I don't know. But anyway.
That stuff is the stuff that comes directly from your subconscious, I think.
Exactly. And it just dropped on the track, and it was perfect in terms of the meter and the tempo of the track. And then I just built a song around it and started off with woke up this morning, closed in on all sides. And that was really a nod. Woke up this morning is a nod to many a blues tune, which starts off with that. And so I use that as a bit of a joke, really. And then just built this song up and then finished up the song. And then, it just, Arthur Baker did the 12-inch, Tony Blackburn played it 3 times on the trot on Radio London, which he's never done before or since. And Bobby Womack happened to be in the studio at the time, heard the song, tried to steal it and put it out on MC.
That's a really good compliment, though, isn't it?
It is. And he did a version in the end, a legit version, which was always good to have. Someone of that magnitude. We were 3 white boys from Sheffield, and I think the record company were doing their best to hide that. And I think so. The fact that Bobby Womack had got involved and actually ended up singing some vocals. We did a duet with him on a track called "So the Story Goes." We got to know him really well, and he was a wild man, but he was a lovely man. Yeah.
Let's talk about
Happened really quick. Did the writing of it happen really quick?
Yeah. It was a 3-minute pop song that took 3 minutes to write.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people listening to this will go, "Yeah, you can bloody tell that." Sometimes it's the simplicity, but it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I think, Martin, talking about subliminal, part of that was the fact that I was up in Sheffield and I, for whatever reason, I wanted to go and see what the world was all about. And to me, living in Sheffield, that was the case for the music business of moving to London. So living in a box was really also about being enclosed or feeling limited by your media.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
And, you know, the idea of trying to break through the cellophane line was very much, you know, a sort of biographical comment on how I felt at the time.
It's a bit like a glass ceiling thing, isn't it?
Exactly. So, and the cardboard is a flexible, destroyable thing. It wasn't, you know, you're not living in a concrete box, you're living in a cardboard box. So the idea is that you can break that down. And so, and actually in the States particularly, they took it on board as a song about homeless people, which it definitely wasn't. But I mean, if you know, I can remember Shelter at the time wanting to use the song for something. So that was quite nice, but it wasn't really about homeless people. It was about...
I think I saw it like that, first of all.
I think it's a lot to a lot of people, actually. It's not one particular thing. And so I think that's the same with a lot of pop songs. You know, people tend to take, oh, I hear it as this and I hear it as that. Yeah. And sometimes you go, oh, really? I never actually thought about that. But yeah, you know, that's also cool.
But the beauty of the song is it's sophisticated in terms of sound. And let's talk about Richard a little bit, because he's a great singer.
Amazing.
I
Unbelievable.
mean, he's a great singer.
Yeah, I mean, great.
He appeared on my second BEF album. I'm glad that he did. But to find a singer like that in North Derbyshire...
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's almost like on a level of Joe Cocker or something.
It is, really. I mean, you know, having worked with a lot of singers before and since, I don't think I've met anybody, and I'm not being rude to anybody in particular, but I remember Chris Porter, who just finished producing the Faith album for George Michael. And Chris said to me when we were recording Room in Your Heart, for example, that Richard, he thought, was the only person he could get near George for his performance and his depth of voice and his expression. Yeah, he was a British Michael McDonald, really. You know, he could impersonate anybody. And it's such a shame that he was actually the most reluctant pop star, as you know. I mean, I can remember telling me, how long is it going to take me to get this twat to come down and sing this epic? And, you know, you worked on him for months, and he was so shy and you know, not painfully shy, but I don't know whether he ever knew how brilliant he was.
I think he, on one level, he knew how good he was. On another level, he lacked the confidence to kind of put it out there in the world.
Yeah. And you forget also how good a guitar player he was as well. I mean, he was like a Prince in that way. He could play like Prince. I mean, he had the most extraordinary licks. One of the guitar solo he did on Room in Your Heart being a classic example. He's just unbelievable. Great feel, great. He could play funk. He could play really revved up rock solos, you know. And when we went to LA and we were working with all the top session guys, I think part of that was only because Richard didn't feel confident to do it, but when he had to do stuff, it was just like, he was unbelievable.
Amazing.
So,
Where did you find him from? Was he from Sheffield as well?
well, originally he was from Stockport. And he was signed to a record label with a band called Zuzu Sharks. I don't think they ever did much, but they were signed. And then at the time when we found him, he wasn't. But it was pure luck. And let's face it, we all need some of that. He just came into the demo studio I was in while we were reeling off the song Living in a Box, literally on a 1/4 inch, having just bounced down my guide vocal and the backing tracks. And he was the next session in to do some... I was the next guy in. And he said to me, bloody hell, mate, that's a cracking song. I said, well, because I'd heard about him. I'd heard about how good he was. I said, would you put a guide on it? Because we haven't got a singer. And he said, well, yeah, all right, I'll stick a vocal in. I've got a session now doing my stuff. And if I've got any time at the end of the session, I'll put a vocal on it. Anyway, I didn't hear any more about it. I think we were in the next day or so, and the engineer played it to me. It was like, holy...
Oh my God. Yeah.
There's magic moments where, you know, you just heard a finished record. It was like...
It's fate. It's
fate. That was... I was very lucky.
Was that before you got the deal? Or
That was before we'd got the deal. And the deal then was, because he was doing the same thing as we were, as all the kids were in the studio. We're all trying to make demos. We're all trying to get record deals. Yeah. But it was almost like, well, okay. I said to him, look, we're trying to get a deal with this. He said, well, I've got my own thing going on. I'm trying to get that going as well. And I went, okay, well, are you okay with the first past the post deal? And by that, I mean, if we get a deal offered as the three of us, me, Titch and Richard, before you get offered one as a solo artist, Would you be cool with that? And I don't put me in a position where I'm standing in front of the when you back out on it, because, you know, you're going to look like an absolute nonce.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah. So we got down to London. Me and Titch got in the car literally that night. We had a couple of other songs I think we ended up him singing on, which were album tracks turned out. And arrived in Holland Park at the Red Phone Box, which is by Lidgate's Butchers, famous to local West Londoners, which is still there, and got the yellow pages out. Started at A for A&M. By the time we got to C for Chrysalis, we got a record deal.
Wow.
Amazing. That's great.
I've never heard that story before.
Yeah.
Well, at the time we spent together, we've never discussed this. That's the genius of these podcasts, because it's like so kind of relaxed but focused. It's interesting. So, Phil, tell me about your most exciting recording or production experience.
Right. Okay. Right. Where do I start there? I mean, I don't know. It's various times, I suppose. I do remember going to mix Sign Your Name.
Yeah. Oh, that was genius, wasn't it?
Yeah. We went to Tim Young's to cut Wishing Well, and I think we've been up probably all night.
Yeah.
And I think we went to cut it, and I remember we were working at the power plant then, and you sort of said, hey, let's not go back to the power plant. Let's go to Air Studios and let's mix Sign Your Name, because we'd recorded it, we put the strings on and everything. And I was always really excited about Sign Your Name. I remember hearing the demo and thinking, blimey, that's the one. I always used to think, do you think you do know when you sort of have when you have a real hit or something? And I just remember getting into that small studio in Air, and just like, I suppose that was the first time of being in Air and all that, and sort of I was moving out from being sort of the house engineer at power plant into sort of doing that more of that freelance world. And George Martin came in, introduced himself like a real gentleman and all that, and we mixed Sign Your Name, and then Sean Oliver, Andrew Oliver's, he came at the end, and he sort of just said, yeah, so that's a hit. And I thought, okay, great.
I remember at the time, it was this amazing thing. It was one of the last tracks we'd recorded on the or mixed on the album, and I remember at the start of a mixing session in those days, what I liked to do was to kind of put all the faders up and just see where we're at, a roughly similar level. And of course, things are going to get changed, and something's going to go, and all that stuff. And we put all the faders up, and I remember thinking, "Fucking hell!" We could probably just put one reverb and use that on just the track, but he sounds fucking amazing. I mean, it sounds like we don't need to mix it or like kind of tweak it, EQ it, compress it. It just sounded like we'd made all the right decisions in recording it. Like that happens very occasionally when you, I mean, it's different now, because when you record tracks, you tend to mix as you go along. But in those days, you used to just record it and then go, we'll fix it in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing what was called tracking, weren't you? But that was in the band. You were just laying down the tricks.
The songwriting, which is always obviously, really helps things. But also, I remember we did it very quickly. I think we did it over 2 days, I think.
Yeah.
Including a whole string section coming in, a live string section, as well as the other strings. And of course, Terence was really good at doing vocals. He was so quick with stuff.
Yeah.
Look, you wouldn't sit there and comp loads of little individual lines. Generally, you'd sort of just go that bit up to about 1.5 minutes, and then that bit for the rest.
Yeah.
And he was really good. I just remember the shooter wop wops in the middle section.
Remember the discussion we had, and I was saying, "Oh, we should have something like that, or a shooter wop wop," or it was like kind of marking it. And I said, "But and he said, I think it was him, or it might have been you, I can't remember. But they said, you can't just do that. And I said, no, it'll really work, because it's like, an echo of a bygone age, you know. And even
And when you hear it as a finished piece of work, all these things that you at the time might think, oh, that's a bit risky. Of course, just sound absolutely.
yeah, they sound natural. But the thing is that the thing is, he was completely sober at the time. He took no drugs. He didn't drink. He was focused on his work completely. And to the extent he used to come in early and study other people's recordings, so in like Otis Redding or whatever, and really study them, and so he could extract the juice from them and reproduce them. And I was so, it just seemed like a very natural process at the time. What did you think, Phil?
Yeah, no, very, very much so. Again, I think his songwriting was really quite special, and also as a performer, he was
He's incredible.
the right type of person at the right time. And I thought it was interesting the fact that he came from America, came over originally to Germany to try and sort of break in Germany. Picked up KP as manager, but then actually came to the UK to break it. And yeah, I mean, I all of those tracks. Let's Go Forward, for instance, that was
beautiful.
great bits. Tim Cansfield's on that as well.
Yeah. It's all paid tribute to Tim Cansfield.
Legend.
He's a legend.
Yeah, we work with him too. He's a lovely guy and makes incredible hot sauce.
There's a beautiful little phrase of Tim's in that record, and it's just not much, but I just now it really sends a tingle down my back. It's like amazing.
Tim has an amazing capacity to relax a track. That's how I put it.
Yeah.
It can make it funky and relaxed, and you don't know if you're trying to program that shit. You've got no chance, because it's all about push and pull against the beat, as you would call it.
Yeah.
And but Tim, for people who don't know, Tim Cansfield worked with BEF in the early '90s. He was a major part of the band on the second BEF album in '92, and he is an amazing player, and he was the main rhythm guitar player for the Bee Gees for many years as well. But the other thing is, he used to be the go-to person for any soul band that was coming into the country. If they were doing a pickup band in the UK, he would be that person. So anyway, we were honoured to work with him, and he's still a good friend. And so the other thing with Terence is that, did you ever hear his original demos that I heard?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I did. I met with Lincoln because I was whilst I was in the Central Logic, I had a sort of day job with Lincoln. Lincoln,
Right.
the A&R man at CBS Sony.
Yeah.
Stein Terence,
Stein Terence.
And I had a meeting with him, and he said about this artist. In fact, I think I met KP, the manager, then as well. And he gave me this tape, and I think I listened to it, and then I sort of discovered it later on. And I wasn't quite sure where I got the tape from, but I remember doing sessions at the power plant, and when everybody had gone home, I would just sit down and listen to that and think, wow, this is just amazing. Who is it? And then it suddenly clicked. Oh, right, it's that guy that.
Yeah.
And then the idea, I just said to Lincoln, I said, I've got to do this album.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God did Lincoln put us together. What a star putting us together.
And I think also for me, I think there's a timeline from when I started getting into the studio thing, when I had my studio in Brixton with This Heat. People would say, I was trying to chase some sort of sound, and in a way, that was in the about 1980. I think over the next 5 years, the whole technology sort of came about, enabling me to sort of get that sound in a way.
Yeah. I think, you did a brilliant job, Phil. I have to say that album sounds amazing, and
Glad to someone who's taken
I thought the three of us were really good, together.
absolutely. I've got a question though. Do you still have that tape?
Theoretically, I do.
No, but you've got it's in the Flat of Doom, isn't it? So
It's in my loft somewhere, and I wouldn't say well, some people might say I'm a hoarder, but I'm sure I've got it somewhere.
It's probably in the man drawer with the batteries and the key rings and the. was on there.
No, but if you ever find it, because I remember hearing that. Obviously, I was impressed with the cassette demos and everything, but I remember thinking it sounded like brilliant, undiscovered Stevie Wonder songs. A lot of it, and he just turned his back on that shit and never recorded them. And I'm going, no.
So reminding me of something is on Wishing Well, basically Terence got Sean, Oliver and I to basically set up his home studio. And I remember we set it up and we got it going. And then Roger Pomfrey passed around.
We all know what that means.
Roger was in Eurythmics and toured with the Trogs and all that. And anyway, basically, to test the studio out, we sort of had a bit of a jam. And that was Wishing Well. So that and Roger and I went on down the West End. I remember getting in his car, but apparently Terence came back and said to Sean, "Oh, what's that?" And he sort of said, "Oh, it's just something we were sort of putting together to test it all." And he said, "Hang on a minute, I've got a poem." And he went and basically put the vocal on, and that was Wishing Well. Now, I've heard. I think I might have that cassette somewhere. But have you got that cassette? Because
I wish I had. I had no idea. I think it's a work of genius. He could put that album out; it would sell. I did the podcast with him and 2 episodes of it. I don't know if you heard it, but it's quite enlightening, shall we say? Yeah. Marcus.
So, on a minute, I've just fallen asleep there. Sorry, what? Hang on, you old buggers. Turkey bullets, elbows.
All right, Angie, all right. Set the bar high now. Okay, tell us some exciting stories about your life with living in a box, particularly in LA. You told us some.
Well, bloody hell, what can I say? I've got, my kids are going to hear this, mate. Listen. Oh, God. Well, what can I say? Listen, a lad from Sheffield ended up in Los Angeles, literally overnight. So we skipped London. Once we'd signed the record deal, the next thing we knew, we were on a flight to LA. And our management company were out there, and it was madness, honestly. What a time to be in LA in the mid-80s. 3 young lads from, reasonably good-looking lads. Let's have it said. And lots of very, very nice ladies who very excited to hear an English accent. And of course, being in LA, you have to be in the business. If I was a manhole cover designer, it would not be quite as exciting as being in a pop group. So we attracted a lot of interest early. In fact, we arrived knowing nobody, and we left 6 months later, and we held a party for 350 people. So there you go. That just shows you. But we were there, and within 5 minutes, I think we were invited to the Sammy Davis Jr.'s house where he was having a party, and then we went to the Chanel family's house, and we went up to the anybody knows LA where the Magic Castle is, where the Magic Circle are based, or whatever they call themselves out there. And it was a magical time, and met lots of really interesting people, amazing musicians. All the session musicians that we worked with on that record. Were just legendary, and good time was had. Talk about living in a box. I was nearly in a box before we got back. We hadn't even put the blooming record out yet, by the way. We were originally going to go out there with Richard Burgess, who'd just produced Trapped, Colonel Abrahams, which was an amazing sounding record, and we thought was quite a good reference point for us. The way that record was put together, so it's partly a program, partly live. It had got that kind of West Coast, although I think he was an East Coast guy, but that kind of production on it. And just sounded incredible. So we were out working with Richard Burgess, and fun was had.
Well, that's
Fad.
Actually
fell apart at the seams.
That's not what you told me. That's not.
I was going to say that's a bit of a.
I think you skated over a lot of shit there. You don't need to. You don't need to on this podcast. You can just give us one piece of juice.
Well. I don't know whether I like dissing people's work, though. Do you know what I mean? Let's just put it this way. The producer who the record company has set us up with didn't work out quite as well as we hoped, and we had to get it pretty much rescued. And to do that, we went to the famous Tower Records on Sunset Boulevard and picked up a record called Back in the High Life Again, which turned out to be, you're going to have to edit in who that was by. But anyway, huge record. Back in the High Life, who did that?
That's Steve Winwood, isn't it?
Steve Winwood, exactly. So and that was a record, comeback records ahead of it. But Tom Lord Alge had engineered that, and he was part of the Lord Alge brothers out of New York, who were producer, engineer extraordinaires. He won a Grammy for that record, and it just sounded like we wanted to sound. We were not hearing that in the studio. We were working in a studio that was owned by Solar Records, and we remember them. They were things like Atlantic Star and all that West Coast sort of the dancey stuff. Actually, they went bankrupt while we were making the record, and the receivers came in and started measuring up the recording desk while we were recording, as if they were going because they were going to take it out because they hadn't paid the bills. Quite fun. And well, we just wanted to. So, long story short, we got Tom in to remix it. And I can remember him discovering all sorts of nonsense that had gone on in the recordings, like everything was all the backing vocals that were meant to be in stereo were actually in mono, panned either side. So it was like, yeah. So we had to redo all of that, and it was an absolute mess. To be honest with you, the demo of Living in a Box, which I haven't got, talking about trying to find stuff, was just an amazing sounding piece of music, and we were always in a way trying to chase our tails, trying to make the same record again. I think sometimes when you get producers in who've got their own particular idea of the way something is going to sound, also they're getting paid, so I suppose they feel like they've got to do something, can actually make more of a mess of an honest.
We've been there, yeah.
You know what I mean? They're chasing your tail, and it's like, no, mate, that was great. Yeah, okay, it needs recording better, and you can probably do this and that. But it was, really a case of trying to get back to what it was originally. And Tom did that and stripped it back down and got it to sound fantastic at the end. But it was a struggle. It wasn't an easy
demo. We've all gone through that one, and there's in that Americans sort of say thanks for not fucking my record up when
that's almost
did in the demo, and at least it's like great. At least you didn't fuck it up, So these days, with digital stuff, you can keep all your initial stuff. So I think that's
exactly.
One thing about it, in a way, it makes it much purer. But yeah,
It does, and also you can't. It's very difficult to capture the magic twice.
yes,
By definition, it is.
You can't.
I'd say you can't either. So in a way, the one that everybody knows is the version that it is, and it did great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish I could even lay my hands on it. I think Titch might have a version somewhere.
You gotta hear that shit.
Yeah, he's got to. Although I must ask him, I'm going to see him next week, so he's got everything. Stuff. Some of the stuff I wouldn't want anyone to see.
Yeah, I must ask you. I mean, it may seem blindingly obvious to you, but I'm asking as a kind of interested party. Why were you so intent on being kind of American or sounding like something that the American market would like? It's interesting to me.
That wasn't a decision that was our decision, really. We ended up making a record in the States because Richard Burgess was around, and I suppose, to be honest with you, the idea of going straight to Hollywood in November in Sheffield, which actually required that it's still paying the bill off now. But anyway, it seemed like a good idea at the time, and at the end of the day, I think it worked out. But really, I think the idea of us being American was more of a marketing decision, because the record company were not as good in the States, although they were banging away with Huey Lewis and the News and Billy Idol and various other big American acts, but they had to be signed in America. If you were signed in the UK on Chrysalis, then you had a bit of a problem because you were kind of given to them, and they kind of resented the fact that they didn't sign you and they just got a deal with you.
Yeah.
But anyway, once we come back to the UK, it was like, okay, here we got 3 middle-class white boys from Sheffield, and everybody thought Richard was black. I mean, everybody thought Richard was black who hadn't met him. And then
I'm asking you, Mark, is it just a reborn American soul artist? I mean, he's so convincingly authentic.
Yeah, he is. Well, I think that's part of the reason why you say, was it American? Because, of course, then the marketing people decided that once they got the Arthur Baker 12-inch remix done, that their marketing trick would be that they would white label from New York into London to the DJs. So the DJs thought they were getting a record that was hot in New York because it had been sent to them with a New York stamp on it.
Yeah.
And they all took off, and it did just fly in the clubs the second. It was just massive. But they thought that we were from New York. And so maybe that set the trend. And of course, because we were called Living in a Box, because we couldn't think of a flipping name to call ourselves, literally when they're going to press, right, what's your name? We go, well, I don't know. And they really thought about it. It's just me, Titch, and Richard. They went, you've got to come up with a name like now. It's going to press. What's your fucking name? But you've got to put something on the label. But anyway,
Why not eponymous? Go eponymous. Why not?
no, which was actually a complete mistake. I don't think there's, yeah, because it makes, you never get past Living in a Box. Room in Your Heart was a bigger record, went top 5 all over the world.
Room in your heart.
Big,
Beautiful
so
song.
nobody knows that Living in a Box does that. We go to these festivals now. We play Living in a Box, Blow the House Down, which was top 10 with that amazing Brian May guitar solo on it. We hit them with Room in Your Heart, and you can see the mouths are literally opening. It's like unless you're a fan of Living in a Box, you never connect the records. You know what I mean? It's a bit. I mean, the amount of times you see one hit wonder coming up, it's like, oh Jesus! And actually, part of being an eponymous, although it does nail it, Living in a Box was such a big record all over the world that to this day, unless you're 5, most people will know Living in a Box. No matter which country in the world you're in. If somebody, he was in Living. Oh, I know it's not Living in a Box. They start, singing me, the one. They know it, and because it was also recently used in Grand Theft Auto 5, which was the second biggest selling game of all time, that brought Living in a Box to a whole new audience, and so that just perpetuated the myth in a way. So being eponymous never really did us any favors beyond the first record, and part of that was. Actually, I think the record company was just trying to hide us. We never did any interviews, so nobody knew who Richard was. We never did all the sort of Just 17 front covers. We never did, we were really enigmatic, and that was their plan. And again, to this day, you could all, we're the ones who almost get forgotten about, except the song is so big. It's like, oh yeah, I remember Living in the Box. But actually, as individual, no one really knew what we looked like. Maybe occasionally they would know what Richard looked like, but they kept it really on the down low. And again, whether that's good or bad for us, it was easier. You could walk the streets at night, but it didn't help into actuating the marketing thing.
Yeah, the irony is that you're a good bunch of guys, so you should have been a selling point. Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, that's very kind. Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, I think there was mistakes made there.
Yeah.
What can you do? And also,
come up with another name, or
well, yeah, now I've thought of a million different names we could have called ourselves. But I mean, then it was literally rabbits in the headlight. They're going, we are going to press now. Make up, we all looked at each other blankly. It was like, and I think it's a bright spot. Well, why don't we go with, Big Country have just done it. Why don't you go with Living in a Box? Well, that's actually quite a cool name, but not, of course, at that age and with that inexperience and being that green. You haven't got your marketing head on and going, yeah, but what happens after Living in a Box? Yeah. You don't think like that as an artist, do you?
The sure of having to do that doesn't make it easy.
No, it doesn't. It's like, shit, let's come. Okay, well, I'm okay to stand with that. It's actually pretty cool. As it turned out, it's a bit like, actually, yeah, for the track 1, but then what?
If you could go back, what would you have called yourself? You've had chance.
Now you put me in the same position as they did. I often think about it, and I don't know whether I've actually ever come up with one. Occasionally I go, oh yeah, that would have been a good name. So I can't give you an answer to the question.
Fair enough. So Living in a Box has a lot of international success, and so tell us what happened after. I mean, presume like all empires end.
Exactly. Well, there's particularly. I mean, people are always amazed how short-lived artists are, and there are several forces all coming into play there. The artists themselves, the management company and the record company, and of course the audience, as things are changing. For us, it was partly Richard who signed, as all artists do, signed a leaving member clause, which are never helpful under these circumstances. I think he felt genuinely that we were running up quite a big bill and Chrysalis were letting us down in America, which they were. We were charting in the top 5 in every country of the world. I think Room in Your Heart went top 62. And when you're trying to pay back a bill and 52% of the world market is the States at the time, well, if you're not doing business there, you're not going to make money. You're not going to not make money. You're not even going to recoup the money.
Same with
there was a lot of resentment about Chrysalis Records being hopeless, which they were, and they were changing distributors from Sony to SEMA and various other things were going on. So partly driven by that, and the idea that he always was a bit more MOR in what he did and what his natural grounding was musically, went off and picked up the big check to go off and do a solo record, which, as I'd said him at the time, I said, we've been lucky here, mate, to get this far, and we've got a name. What are you doing? Even, George Michael did it, and I can count the number of solo artists who've left bands and had a successful career on the fingers of one hand, and even Mick Jagger couldn't do it. There are very few can do it. And, and as time tell, unfortunately, it didn't work out.
Though, can you?
Huh?
You can't blame me for picking.
Of course you can't. Of course you can't. And I can understand. I said to me, listen, I can't. It's out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it. I also didn't want to particularly get into any artistic differences because he kind of felt that things should move in a more MOR way. Yeah. I was trying to keep things a bit more edgy. And at the end of the day, it's a creative process. You can't go, listen, you're going to do this, that, and the other if you don't want to. And that was that. Yeah. So it was a sad thing. And of course, it puts you in a position, whereas I was a great songwriter with Living in a Box, but I was never going to be a jobbing songwriter. I wasn't the sort of guy who could write to a brief. I needed to have all aspects of what I did. So I wrote a song for various other artists. My mother was particularly excited when I wrote a song for Tom Jones, which he ended up covering. But really, my thing wasn't really about writing, being a sort of a songwriter for hire. That was never really what I wanted to do. So, yeah. And, then, of course, as we all know, the music industry imploded for everybody once we got into digital rights.
Still here, aren't we?
Yeah. Still here, and we're still on tour, mate. And we're still out there. And actually, lots of other things that we've done in the meantime.
So, Living in a Box, tell us what's happening there. Are you
Living in a Box? Living in a Box are out on tour. Doing their, as everybody does, what everybody who wants to do is doing the things that you do with Heaven 17. We like doing the big events, to have 30,000 people stand in a field cheering you on. Florence, it's weird. It's like time travel, isn't it? Yeah. It really is very strange.
Have you
got
a singer yet?
Tom,
have you got a singer yet?
We talked to you, the guy you put onto us, who I think is looking very promising.
He's fucking great, man.
Oh, he's amazing. He's really up for it. All we're doing now is
your problems are over. You guarantee?
Yeah, no, we're really looking for.
He's heard it here first. Top session singer, sung with loads of people, but he's like got a presence. He's more like a co-lead singer. Anyway,
yeah, he's great.
I think he's really good.
He's fun with it. Yeah, he was particularly good with Pink Floyd, and he sings with Mark Almond, sort of his BB, and Beverly Knight, and it's just a great thing. Anyway, so that is next because we've been working with Kenny, but Kenny Thomas is now going to go off and do his solo record, which is fine. And I think I was talking to Titch about this. If you're not singing with the original lead singer, that's fine. I mean, loads of artists are doing it. But you just got to make sure that they can do it and ham it out.
You got to,
and also,
person, right?
it's totally cool evolving. I mean, I have no problem with that whatsoever, and I think fans out there totally realize it. As long as they're hearing the songs, so they recognize them, putting a fresh coat of paint on it, nothing wrong with that.
No.
And banging out for 2022, changing the arrangements slightly, changing the instrumentation slightly. Great, I mean, this is what it's all about. So. So Living in a Box lives on, and in the tour we're doing our first. Are you doing W Fest in Belgium?
I think we are next year. Yeah,
I think you might be. I think we might even be on the same day. We're on with Level 42, which is going to be a bit embarrassing, seeing as we thieved their hot water bass line and we've never talked since.
Level 42. They're good, They've got a lot of young musicians in, and I like him, and I like.
Oh no, they're great. Then I'll do a little cool. But then listen, talk to Phil because he's here and he's going to fall asleep. But I'll tell you what I'm doing apart from Living in a Box.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Phil, what you now?
Well, I'm up to wow.
You're playing with
himself. I'm not playing with myself, please. Yeah. No, I'm sort of.
He is playing.
Launching, getting my label going, really. I mean, the promotions company's been doing pretty good, and it's sort of worked out quite well. But signing bands. So I signed this artist, Dan Lyons. Did an album with him from produced by that guy Chris from Florence and the Machine.
Oh right, okay.
we did that, but the day the album came out was basically the day of lockdown.
Oh, shit.
So that was a back strange, but nonetheless, I've sort of carried on. We've got a good relationship with Republic of Music down in Brighton, and that's that's working out okay. So we managed to make some success out of that, and basically I got 2 bands that I'm actually sort of trying to lock down for signing for next year. Yeah, we've got I'm not going to say who they are yet, just in case it doesn't happen. I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, we're getting.
So Future-Proof Records, yeah?
Yeah, this is Future Proof Records. Yeah, and like I say, we've been doing the promotions for a while now, but to get the label back on track, because like I say, originally sort of started as a label doing things with Nana Cherry and Rodney P. But yeah, we've put in records out. Dan Lyons was in Fat White Family and
Fat White Family. They're great.
So there's a good pedigree there. And yeah, the guys I'm looking to sign, basically, I think we're going to do pretty well with them, actually.
I've got some amazing young artists that are coming through Talyard at the moment. I should push some of them towards you now that I know that you're relaunching the label.
No, we're very much looking for talent. Yeah, we're very much looking for talent.
All the listeners to the podcast, listen. If you want to contact me on electronicallymartin@gmail.com, I'll forward any ideas to Phil directly.
Yeah, or you can go out to phil@futureproofrecords.com, either one.
Yeah.
But yes, so that's sort of where we're at. We've had a lot of support from Steve Lamacq for our artists, as well as John Kennedy on Radio X, Eric Matthews, and Gideon Coe, also the whole sort of Six Music team and stuff like that.
That's good.
Definitely,
I love Six Music.
making.
Yeah. Cool. Marcus, what are you up to?
What am I up to? So I went into kids' entertainment in a way, not as a party. Kid party, with balloons and clown boots. Yeah, I started actually by one of those things by accident. My son, when he was really young, was all into those things like tractors, diggers, fire engines, and trains. So we went into a field, filmed them going up and down, put some great music, of course, which I wrote, put it up on the internet, and they've had 13, 14 million views per show.
Holy shit.
And started to build really just took off. Phil actually publishes the songs, don't you, Phil? Thank you. And collects all the cash as it comes rolling in from all over the world. And so since then we decided we would develop some kids' characters and go into animation. So we've got Cody and the Cloud, which is just starting on. We just run some pilots on YouTube, and next year we're launching them in the shows. So we've got sort of 2D, 3D animation and live action all put together. And I'm writing the music for it, and it's really exciting. I'm loving it because nobody says no. And if you're a YouTube content creator, it's you and your audience.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so refreshing compared to the days when we all used to work and you're part of a team. Yeah, you've got the band to deal with, you got the producer, the engineers, the record company, the management company, the audience, radio, so on. With this, it's just like, no, you make something you believe in. If you craft it well enough, and you can get it out there directly through all the channels that we all now are so excited to have instant access to, then it can really be a rewarding experience creatively, and as well as
Total respect for the diversification. I'm always encouraging my students to look at the world from a multiple income stream.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I remember you mentioning to me that you'd spoken to the Talyard students on that. Just saying, look, there is no set way to get your art, whatever that may be, out there. Especially in this day and age, there's so many different channels. And there are so many different ways to put your music out there if music is your thing. That don't just think to get along the traditional route. There are so many other ways around it.
Absolutely.
For me, it just happened to be kids' content because I had young kids at the time. And I found it really rewarding. I also found the space to be sort of underpopulated by people who were actually songwriters. It was people who, the quality of stuff wasn't great. There's also some pretty awesome stuff out there as well when you get into it. But the opportunities are out there. You just got to think out of the box a little.
I get it.
You know what I did there?
Out of them. But it's also a massive international market. That's another point.
It's instantly global. I hate the expression, but it is.
Yeah.
And you can play to an audience. And you might find I mean, as we are with this, that we're getting an audio, a really big. 3 main areas are UK, USA, and India. So, I mean, why that in particular? I mean, I think it's educational is one of the things that we're really keen on. The fact that it's in English, kids like, learning through song is really important for young children, so that, we all know how nursery rhymes work. We know how counting and learning to spell. And if you set that to music, it's easier for young children. We're in the preschool market, but it's much easier and less laborious to learn if they're having fun, and then they're learning almost subconsciously, and that's the trick.
As we're getting towards the end of this, I'd just like to say how impressed I am that you managed to avoid tales of debauchery and drugs.
Yeah. Well, it's only the threat of my now teenage kids, who I imagine will definitely be hearing this, that I cannot go there.
All right, Phil.
Phil says, sorry, I need to get a plug in that the kids thing is called Kids Trucks TV on YouTube. And to watch out for that over the next coming year, because we're putting up plenty of stuff. And if you've got toddlers, which of course we're coming through that, and we're more into teens, but hey, we're going to be grandparents again sometime. So
yeah. So right, this is getting towards the end. Blown by, of course, as I knew it would. These are like the kind of your favorite things questions that we do at the end of every episode. So I'm going to do it one at a time. Phil, what's your favorite film?
I suppose I've always gone for Taxi Driver, but I also like Boogie Nights.
Oh, Boogie Nights. Yeah. Great film. Both great films. Yeah. Okay, Marcus, what's yours?
My favorite film. Well, difficult. I mean, because it's like songs, isn't it? It's like what time of the day, how you feeling. I mean, Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet. I just saw the other day and just remembered how amazing that Lynch and anyway. But that was. I don't know. It's my favorite, but that was a recent one when I went, wow, that is an amazing looking film.
All right. I have a TV series because Chernobyl blew me away.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that.
Really loved that.
We're doing TV next, so that's your answer. What's your answer, Marcus?
Oh God, there's so many on there with Netflix at the moment. I really enjoyed.
Chernobyl was amazing.
Sorry.
Chernobyl was incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. Oh God, what's the one with the accountant who gets shot and then they live in that island? They have to go and get money because they're working under the mafia. Ozark.
Yeah, that
was Ozark. Brilliant. I thought maybe the first couple of episodes people have to stick with, but after that, I just thought it was amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Phil, your favorite book? I know you're an intellectual.
The Prize.
Who's that?
It's the history of oil and humanity with it. It's it's a book that's really sort of educated, to just enlighten me and sort of why humanity is where it is now. I think it's good for anyone who wants to chase a dream, because I think it just shows the endeavor and the risk and the sort of the all that sort of stuff that's gone on with the history of oil and stuff like that.
I shall read that. It sounds really good. Yeah.
The Prize. Yeah.
Fantastic. Marcus.
The Power of the Dog by Don Winslow. We read this book, part of the trilogy. So if you're watching any of those Narcos or whatever, it's basically this set all that in motion. These books, absolutely amazing. Brilliantly written, really, really fabulous. I can guarantee it. This is one of those books that if you pick it up, you will not be able to put it down. Absolutely superb. The Power of the Dog, Don Winslow.
Thank you.
Check it out.
Okay, Marcus, I'm starting with you this time. Other musical artist or composer?
That are my favorite.
Yeah.
Musical artist. This might sound really weird. But I was in the car the other day with my daughter, and we were cranking up the music, and she was going, "Oh, tune, tune!" And of course, all of them are like 80s and 70s tunes that she was loving. And then Hotel California came on. And it was just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, you know what I mean? It is what it is, but what a song. I mean, it's just fantastic. I've been to Hotel California, which is in, obviously, Beverly Hills Hotel in Beverly Hills, and everything. I don't know. There's just so much that means to me, that song particularly. And the guitar playing, which apparently was literally made up on the spot. You know, amazing. So it's got that instrumental, and it's just a classic.
Absolutely. Okay, Phil?
Songwriters.
Yeah, what other artists?
Well, Prince. I've always been a fan of Prince.
Prince.
I think, as an adult, I remember, as a kid and teenager, it was really sort of, you would, love people like Bowie and all that sort of stuff. And then I think as I got in the business, that sort of element sort of disappeared a bit. But then when I discovered Prince, I think that as an adult, I've always been a fan of his work. So I should.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that.
I had an interesting experience. I went for a piss with him once in Los Angeles. It was at a club called the 2020. Have I told you this story? So we're at this club, and it's called the 2020 Club. And the only way you could get in was either if you were an artist or if you were signed to a record label or you were a publisher. So it was all the record community in LA. The 2020 is a small club in Century City, maybe 300 capacity, and the house band was Earth, Wind and Fire. So they were in town. Everybody went down to see this band play, and Shaka Khan got up the night we were there and sang a track. Prince got up and sang a track, and halfway through, I can't remember, at some stage there was a break. I went to the men's room. I'm standing at the urinal, as you do, and just felt a presence, obviously quite a small presence on one side and quite a large presence on my other side.
Your small presence in the downstairs department.
No, not well. Of course, my eyes were very fixed on the job at hand rather than what everybody else was doing. So I looked to my right, and it was Prince, and I looked on my left, and it was Mike Tyson.
Shut the back.
You got to top that for a men's room visit.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Mike Tyson could probably have put Prince in his pocket. Anyway. Okay. I know you're very sophisticated people, you two.
But we'll hang out with you, of course.
So, who's your favorite visual conceptual artist or conceptual artist?
I went to a recent Banksy experience, and I like what he says about what he does. I mean, there's a little element of stock record, but I think it was really, it's quite exciting when you see a painting being destroyed live in a sale room, and the value of what it says about art going up through the roof as a result of a painting being destroyed. I can't remember the figures, but I think it was 8 million quid or something, wasn't it going to be? And now it's 23 million or something, just because it's destroyed. I mean, I don't know whether it was meant to be partly destroyed, which obviously is the genius of it.
Yeah.
But I think as a concept, a lot of what he's had to say, although now probably you could argue is somewhat repetitive, has been an interesting commentary of social life in the 21st century.
Yeah. Phil?
Yeah. Well, okay, I get the Banksy thing for sure. I mean, I think this has probably changed throughout my life, but Damien Hirst, I think I still marvel at the his shark thing, and the title of it, the physical impossibility of death in the mind of someone living. That title alone is just like I can sit and ponder on my walks. And
sounds like a conversation we might have had after a few Patron tequilas.
It's okay. But, yes, and I think David, the enfant terrible thing of him. I think, well, that's an example of the shark, but also the title of it, sort of is a very important part of a piece of art and stuff like that.
He's an incredible conceptualist. I honestly believe he's a genius in terms of concepts. And I think the physical manifestation of the art is almost secondary. I remember going to see the big exhibition he had in Venice, and the review of it when it was on in London was Brian Sewell. he said shiny shit, just 2 words.
That's right.
And it pretty much summed it up for me. So I'm extremely ambivalent about Damien Hirst, but I think in one sense, he is a genius. Yeah. So the final question, and I know it seems like, good Lord, how can we reach the end? But we will continue this conversation as in the world's longest sentence that we did in New York.
Yeah, right. Which is a record.
Which we'll go into. You can speculate about it. I'll start with you, Phil. What's your favourite synth?
My favorite sin. Oh. La, 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 la. I guess. Well, all right. Although it's a bit of a boring one, but I suppose where it is in my play, the first synth I ever had was a DX7. You know, it's not a, you know, I would say it's sort of probably did its time and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess you know, a Moog is pretty much up there. But I also remember Prophet 5.
Yeah,
with the need just seemed to have all of those American sort of Sugar Hill Gang records and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that was late. Was that one of the first polyphonic synths? I think
it might have been. Yeah, I mean, it did. You know, it's a tone.
Just say
The Prophet was heavily featured on black electronic music from America at that time. Yeah.
right. Okay. So okay. Well, yeah. I think probably the Prophet 5 in the long run of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
One. Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus.
Difficult because of course they're all tools different effect with. I mean, my first synth was a Yamaha was it a CS15?
Oh, I know.
And just
They're quite-
Yamaha CS, it's a duophonic synth. And now on the internet I can see 950 quid if you want to buy one. Which was quite an interesting tool. The DX7, which was when everything went digital, was a bit of a boring thing until you get the TX816, which was a rack of DX7s when you could start to detune things and fatten them up. Emulator, of course, was fantastic at each time because it was a bit like a sampling synth.
Point. Yeah.
You know, so, and then of course Super Jupiter, the Juno, there's all sorts of different things for different reasons. But I love them all really. I mean, there was just that some of them I can remember that some more than others were absolute sons of guns to control, and you spend more time trying to get it to do something. And then you kind of lost the creativity. And then of course as things got synced up and MIDI became a big thing and everything was happening, you know, Lin sequencers, Lin 9000, so you know, the Roland SP12 was a drum machine. Good story about that one is that was a great machine. And when we were just recording, we were hiring stuff in, the SP12 came in, we set it up. The guy said, oh, I hope you enjoy this. Prince has just used this and recorded a song called Kiss on it.
Oh,
Sort of fantastic. And so you could see his presets and you could hear him literally with all these drum loops and stuff. It's a big 12.
Oh, thank you for that. That was great.
That was a point. I think we used that on Terrence.
You do SP12 at SP12, you know. And
That's a good sound.
yeah, good sound. Well, what a fantastic episode this has been. I'm sure that Santa will drop this into everyone's letterbox.
Well, I wish everybody a hearty yo ho ho.
With a hearty yo ho ho.
And spending time with my yo ho hos.
I'd like to wish everybody a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. I'm sure you two would like to too. Would you?
Yes. Happy Christmas to everybody.
Happy Christmas, one and all. Chill up. Let's make 22 better than 21, and that's not going to be difficult.
Oh, yeah, we got to get over these 2 years. Let's make 22 a good year for everyone. And Lo, you know I love you, and we'll see you over the Christmas period.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm getting.
Thank you. Well, thank you for asking us. I'll be honest, we've been hearing about this, haven't we, Leggy? We've been hearing about all these superstars that he's had on his thing. We thought, do you think he'll ask us? Do you think he'll ask us? And we were into our third bottle of red in that having our spag bowl with him out the other night. And he said, would you like to do it? And we must admit, we weed a little bit, didn't we? With excitement.
You are the superstars in my world. On everybody I've interviewed. So and Twitch as well.
Yeah, of course.
All right, guys. I will see you in 22.
See you in 22.
Bye.
Bye.